This daily drawing practice exercise took me 10 minutes to draw the church and the buildings around it, and then I spent a few minutes that I'll show at double time where I just did the hatching for the foliage that we see here. So anyone recognize where this is from? Well, we're in Vienna, and it's down the road from Schönbrunn Palace. In fact, I think this is the small church that the imperial family would come to when they were in residence there. It's certainly a very modest church, if that really is the case. And in fact, this is the rear view of the church. And the thing that I've always liked about it is its very thin, elegant spire. And I think in many ways, the thinner the spire, the harder it is to get right, the more important it is to centre it. And anyway, we'll come to that later. For now, you can see that I've started with this window, which I thought was the easiest part of the architecture to draw with some sense of proportion. It's not a straightforward starting point for this because there isn't really anything that's really obvious or clear or rectangular, and the tree probably obscures some more architecture that would have been a more helpful starting point. And there's a little bit of fiddliness around here. There's a buttress that comes out between each window, and we can only actually see one window, but we can catch a glimpse of the decorative element towards the top of the buttress on the right-hand side through the leaves, the right-hand side of the window that I started with. Made the window surround a little bit too wide, but trying to cope with that. And there are glimpses of architecture between this building on the lower left and the church, and the roofing above as well, which doesn't make a great deal of sense. So we just need to not so much understand it, but observe it carefully and copy it. And make sure we get the alignment correct. Now I realize that I need to put this building in first and get this little chimney, I suppose it is, up so that I can now do the roof horizontal lines. And I align that with what I've already drawn, first in the reference photo and now in my drawing. So a reminder, you're watching this real time, so it is a fast drawing. It is a style that's a little more loose than what I normally draw, but I think I am getting used to drawing with a looser style than I did when I first started. I think that's been a good thing with this series for me, with these almost 60 drawings now that I've done. Watching the clock and not letting myself get bogged down. So now I've got this roof which curves slightly as it comes to the edges. Not such a great effort there. And bit of a mess on the top, and a bit of a mess with some of these lines. Towards the end, when we're in double time, because this was a last minute thought, I actually add some horizontal lines around, curving around each of the flat sections on this end roof to give a sense of the effect of the tiling, but it also served to, I think, make less obvious a little bit of the bodginess of the lines there. So, and I could have put a little bit of value into this as well very quickly, and I think that would have been quite effective as well. But for now, I'm starting on the foundation of this tower. And I don't know if you noticed, but I started with the tops of two little pinnacle type structures, and then the tower, we have a band that sits between them, and now from that I'm going up and doing this very thin vent, really, to probably allow the bells noise to be heard in the surrounding suburb. And now the important thing with this is to keep it all very thin. I don't want thick, heavy lines. I want a bit of a light effect if I can, but I also want thin lines so that the width of this tower doesn't spread too much, because I do want to capture the thinness of it. It's almost a pencil-like structure. And I think its elegance is in place of ornamentation, and so we certainly want to capture it. And then, having established the sides, we can put the tower, the spire section on. So trying to work out where the top will be. Now, is this centered correctly? And I make a mistake and I come down. I should go the other way. I should go to the point, I think. And I've got a fair few lines there, and some of them even join up. So I push my tower slightly higher to join them up just past where I had joined them. And then I decide that the white support isn't quite wide enough. In fact, I was so desirous to keep it thin that it was just a little bit too thin. So I just massage those lines outwards slightly. And now, just checking out what's happening with this roof. I honestly can't remember what we were doing at the back of this church, because it really is more an access road than anything else. I think maybe we'd driven up the side street because it's on a corner from memory, and I just realised that we could get behind it, so I thought, oh, let's have a look. I'm glad I did. It's a nice view. Even grand buildings have a less glamorous side to them. So now I'm trying to put this fence in. I'm hoping to do as much of this as I can. We're still in real time. We're still well within the 10 minutes at this point. Now, some of this fence I'm going to create through negative spacing, through drawing the shadows, the darker shadows of the trees, which we can see behind, and where the palings of the fence stand out as lighter. And then other parts I'll make darker, but I'll do that towards the end. So now we have this building on the right-hand side. I suspect it's part of the Imperial Palace complex, which does stretch quite a long distance, simply because it's that Habsburg yellow colour that the palace is painted in. So I expect that indicates that it's one of the furthest buildings connected with the palace. And there are magnificent grounds with great long walkways with enormous trimmed trees on each side, quite reminiscent of Versailles in lots of ways. I'm not drawing the lens distortion here. This is the sort of scene where I think it really adds nothing, and it's just going to look strange in my drawing if I tilt the corner of this wall in. It will just look like I'm not paying attention. So I straighten it and just allow for whatever adjustment that requires in the height of that corner. And now trying to position the rest of this. These windows and doors, because they are steep perspective angles, it's important that we line the tops and bottoms up correctly. In fact, when I tilted this corner back towards the right, I could have actually dropped the top of the corner and lessened the angle, because that would have been more in line with what I was seeing in life, rather than drawing the angle the same and then having to increase the height of the wall. That actually would have been a better way, a more accurate way of managing the conversion back to non-tilting. And now lining up these windows with the ones that are underneath. So thinking, what else am I going to do now? I was probably checking the time at that point as well. Still just within my 10 minutes. And a few more details. And there is a tree that's on the far side of the church that's not part of the tree that's at the rear. So I want to include that, but I want to make clear that it's a separate tree. So I use much lighter and more widely spaced hatching. So I do intend to hatch for the colour of the tree as well as for the shading of the tree. So the whole tree is going to be covered with lines, and they're finished up being a couple of minutes of hatching to just create that effect and then to finish the fence. So this is what we're seeing now. And hey, if you're still watching, why not hit the like button for me? If you're finding this daily drawing practice helpful, whether you're able to do all of them or even most of them or not, if they're helpful to watch and to do some of them, please hit the like button for me. And if you have friends who draw, why not encourage them to draw along as well, and then you can compare your drawings when you see them. That's a nice way of almost creating your own class with anyone you know who joins, who draws. And so now the fence, and creating the effect of the fence through both positive and negative drawing. We're getting pretty close, and it's not too much more. So now I do what I mentioned earlier and put some lines in to create the effect of the small terracotta tiles that sit on top of the roof. And now I should have been a little more careful with this because I almost made it as messy looking as how it was before I put the lines on, but there we have it. So a bit more darkening now, just some overall hatching to increase the value, the darkness of the foliage of this tree. And then I think we're pretty much done. Yep, we are. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. I hope you enjoyed this little glimpse into a corner of Imperial Vienna. And I hope you have a go drawing this. Of course, you'll find the photo on my channel community page, so why not give it a go? But hey, whatever you end up drawing, however it looks, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.